up, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, roll call. Sue is not with us today. Joe?
Joe's here.
Tim?
Here.
Catherine is with us by Zoom. Amelie? Here. And David.
Present.
This is his first meeting as our second student representative, so thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Before we go further, just a quick reminder about participation. If you are joining us by Zoom and you would like to ask a question, please add your question to the comments, the chat rather. And if you're here in person, please raise your hand and we'll call on you as we can. For any participation that we would have for community members or for people who might be staff that are here in person or by Zoom, any of those comments would happen after the committee has their comments that they've talked about the situation. All right, so I will entertain a motion to meeting from September 21st, 2022 as written or with corrections.
So, second.
Any discussion?
No discussion in the minutes, but we also did have a special meeting. Those will be next to over those all.
Thank you.
I had a chance to do those.
Any discussion or corrections from either of you two? All those in favor? Catherine, do you have anything you wanted to add? No. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you. Okay. Superintendent's report.
Well, I did not send out a written report this month. It obviously doesn't come around, but I will say that I did spend I don't know how many days total I was gone, but I would say probably at least 2 out of 3, maybe somewhere around there. I was in touch with somebody here in the district. But I would most like to thank Megan. She did a great job. Did a lot of work. We did some work which we'll probably hear about later along with the administrative team on strategic plan. Thank you. And other things, and just did a great job and gave me a great deal of solace of not being here and not worrying about the district running on a day-to-day basis. But I think she would, because we've already met the debrief, she would say that a great deal of that credit goes to the other administrators who are really outstanding at doing their jobs and made that part. Did it go with there's really not much to do on my job, is what she said. No, she didn't say that. But obviously we have really amassed a really good administrative team and very strong people who are very good at their jobs. And so thanks to all of you as well. And of course, thanks to all the teachers. I sent an email out to the staff just thanking them for being amazing, continuing to be amazing during the time that I was gone. So, it's great when people who had to listen to me ramble on for very long know I'm all about roles and responsibilities, and it just was really crystal clear from the students to the teachers to the administrators to Megan running the whole show that the people understand their roles and responsibilities and did a great job with that. So sometimes I do feel this at all. That's good with that.
That's excellent. I mean,
Hopefully the right reading. So, and that would be happy. There's a bunch of stuff I think you probably want to talk to me about that's on the agenda, so wait till it gets up to that part. That'd be great. I just wanted to take a quick second. You got September and October's financial reports, but I have to say that at least the dates. I didn't focus a lot on September. I was a little bit thrown off by the dates are incorrect.
Thank you.
But I looked at the October one, which is kind of where I was at. And we are in really good shape in everything. A couple, we're close. The co-curricular, it should be unusual. Our most expensive sports from all perspectives is the fall. We pay stipends and stuff like that. I would expect that to be around 66%, and it's at just under 65, so it's off by a little more than 1%. And school administration, Article 7, again, I would be expecting it to be around 66%. It's at 65. So I just will be keeping an eye on that. All the rest of them are in really good shape. So I think we're in very good position financially at this point. Yeah.
Can I ask that when we get these reports, where it says percent remaining, could we actually get that figure? What percentage of the school year is actually remaining? So
Oh,
we can
that
compare
means
that.
the percent of the budget.
I know that,
Oh,
but what I'm wondering is, can we have the actual percentage of the school year remaining there so we can compare and see who we're close for renewal rate? This feels comfortable, or this feels really close and kind of scary? Yeah.
I will have to create this list.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you, Ida.
Thanks, Ida. That's great.
So we have 2 appointments. Kaylee Paget is the alternative ed Tech 3 we've hired, and Haley Dion is the special ed Tech 3 at the grade school. 1 resignation, Taylor Coolio, third grade teacher. And just FYI, I will not be filling that position. We did pick 4 third grade teachers, we're now down to 3, and the numbers are fine. So we're not filling that position. And a transfer that I'm really pleased to announce, Allison Prescott is moving from special ed Tech 3 at the middle school to the Tech 3 library. She's very excited to be able to move into the library and continue to do a little bit of teaching and more of a teaching tech role than she was as an ed tech. So I'm hopeful that that move might make her decide to stay more than a year or 2. Maybe she'll stay a lot longer.
She'll do a good job with that. Is it Katie Paget or Kelly Paget?
Kelly
Okay.
Paget.
And is Haley hired to take over the position that Allison had? Or is that just coincidental?
I don't know. No.
Yeah, okay.
Allison was in middle school and Haley's at
Oh, grade school, yes. And were we expecting Taylor Coolio to leave?
No, we were not. It was very surprising.
Was it anything that we could have controlled?
No.
Anybody else have any questions? All right. Chair report. It's right on the top, so I feel like I'm being a copycat, but not. Megan did a great job. We had a lot of movement happening over the last month and a half with the bus stuff, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. We did not meet negotiations for the admin contract on the 1st because there was some scheduling conflicts, so our next meeting will be on the 15th. What that means substantively is that the 15th was going to be our 3rd meeting to bring issues, and that would have been our last meeting to bring issues, but we'll need to kick that down a little bit so that we're not missing a meeting to bring issues to the table. NHS members have started thinking about or working on their service projects, and I'm pretty excited by that. Field hockey is at States tonight, and regional, thank you, sorry. I'm still excited. That is where Sue is tonight. She is there, her daughter's on the team. If you're not aware, Winthrop Middle School, at least, I can't speak for Greater High School, is using an online program for scheduling their parent-teacher conferences, and it was pretty slick, really easy to use. And sometime next week, we should know who our 2 new members are going to be, and I'll reach out to them to meet sometime before the end of the school year to get them sworn in and started with their orientation, so they're ready to go on the first meeting in January. That's all I have.
I should add, out of order, out of line, best wishes to you, Mr. Petrosky, with your bid.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a great experience.
Okay. Finance committee.
We do not meet, we're meeting next week.
Policy committee, we have a few things that we need to discuss later in the agenda. Is there anything that you'd like to add right now, Catherine?
No, I guess if we're going to discuss them later on, I'm ready to do that when you're ready. Then I think we'll wait till the other time to discuss. Does that sound good?
Thank you. Okay, we already talked about negotiations, curriculum, nothing for today.
Nope, actually. So we did, last month was a busy month. We did start doing some pretty pointed work at Winthrop Middle School. Lori and I have worked together to come up with 3 curricular goals for the middle school. And we're hoping to continue that work on a monthly or bi-monthly basis in content areas. So hopefully we'll have some curriculum guides to be bringing to the committee towards the end of the year for at least 6-8. I have meetings going into December to start meeting with some high school content areas as well to see where they're at and kind of gauge where teacher workload is so that we can continue that work into the high school as well. At the grade school, we've put together a Case 5 group of teachers who are going to be looking at the science materials. So we started with kind of having a standard articulation and determining at what level of rigor our kiddos are expected to be at for each standard, and we're hoping to proceed into looking at our current programming and then making sure that anything we would either continue with or any new programs that we might be looking into will align to what we hope our kiddos are going to need for science. So lots of exciting movement across all 3 buildings with curriculum in October.
And you'll be doing a update on...
So next meeting, not related to somewhat related to curriculum. Next meeting I will be doing a presentation on the testing scores from last spring. I'll also add into that the fall data. And there will be some updates, although things are still getting ironed out at the state level around what our spring assessment will look like. I'll give the board some more information on that as well.
At the middle school, is it also science with content areas?
So middle school and high school operate differently than the grade school since we have teachers who specialize in content. We have kind of a goal for each content area based on what work they were able to complete last year before we kind of paused on the curriculum documentation piece. At the grade school, we really have to focus by content area annually because it would be a lot at this point to be developing everything for every grade level since we have teachers who don't specialize in a specific content. Some do a little bit as you get to 5th grade, but it wouldn't be appropriate. I think, being back full time right now, and all of the PD that our principals are offering and everything else just getting back is a lot for our staff right now. So being really thoughtful and intentional with kind of what I'm asking them to do. I'm just trying to make sure it works for everybody.
Excellent.
But still moves us forward.
Any other questions, Megan? Okay. All right, no administrator reports tonight.
I want to, just a side note, this is I probably messed you up a little bit. At the beginning of the year, we did one, after I felt the committee's request, the first meeting of the month, because we were just starting school, wanted to get that sort of sense, but generally we do the administrative reports the second meeting. So we'll be returning to that structure next meeting.
All right. Moving on to old business, we are going to start with a discussion regarding JMG, jobs for main grads, with Kelly Barassa. Do you want to?
Sure. Well, if that name's not familiar to you, her daughter is Michaela, who is teaching 3rd grade for us. And
I know, I look way too young for
Hey, Jay, do you want to jump up here and be in support?
Yes.
I just brought 3 handouts. Jay had asked me for these last meeting, and we were literally in the middle of updating everything, so I'll just,
You can just share them.
yeah, there's one just kind of general, learn about James, there's a high school specific handout, and a middle school specific handout, so.
Are there 2 of each?
There's 2, no, there's 2 pages, 2
Okay.
each, yeah, yeah.
Dustin, you want
So-
to finish your walk?
Thank you for,
Oh, I'm all set.
yeah, no, I'm like, where the, thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak. I just wanted to share with you, I had past experience with Jay in a different district, as well as with Jim in different roles. I'm a regional director for J&G, so I oversee Lewiston, Auburn, Gorham, Westbrook, Oak Hill, and Poland. But basically, I just wanted to kind of give you a general overview of what J&G is today. If you've ever had experience with J&G in the past, it's been around a long time, and we do really work very, very hard to kind of pivot with the times and provide the needs that school districts are needing and students are needing. What started out as strictly a dropout prevention program has really become anything a school district needs, from middle school all the way through college. We work very hard, starting at the middle school level, to give kids, first and foremost, a connection at school, building good relationships, helping them build skills such as, teamwork and leadership and problem solving and those types of things at that level. And then, of course, guiding them even further through high school onto, a career path, and whether that means college or a trade or just a training program. We really try to meet them where they are. The benefit to being in JMG for a lot of those kids is that we often have them for multiple years, so we are able to really build a good relationship. One unique thing I think about our program is that for all students who graduate from JMG, from high school with JMG, they get 1 year of follow-up, at least. As a former specialist, I have some of the kids that reach out 5 years later. So that just means we're guiding them through that first year out of school and helping them pivot and change and do what they want to do. I was trying to think of what else we might add to that, but I guess I'm happy to take some questions.
Well, can you talk a little bit about what, either you or Jay, I don't care who, but we met, I can't put St.
St. John.
Yeah. And just talk about, it's something the committee's gonna have to discuss at some point if you wanna move forward with this program. When is it likely to be available?
Yeah,
You should talk a bit about maybe the middle school program as well.
sure.
Some of those pieces would be important.
Yeah, so, being that we're in the middle of a fiscal year for us and for you guys and the school year, the chances of adding a program at the high school or the middle school would probably make most sense for next year. J&G, supports a portion of that cost, so we need to have it in our budget as well. So that would likely be, a next school year type of thing. Middle school wise, programmatically speaking, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those kids will often do all of their learning through project-based learning. We have field trips and group work and things like that. Sometimes it's just learning how to work collaboratively with team members, learning how to trust an adult, that sort of thing, and still planting the career seeds there for sure. They get a lot of hands-on experience with guest speakers, with going out in the community, a lot of community service. That is a component that gets kids to really buy in. They like it, they feel good about it, it's great for our communities, it's good for our businesses, so that's more of the focus there, where in high school it gets a little more specific. There's a lot more financial literacy. Students have the opportunity to earn college credits in a J&G classroom through a financial literacy PBL that we've created and partnered with Thomas College on. There's an entrepreneurship one as well. Right now, we're offering the Maine Career Exploration Badge to any Maine student. They don't have to be JMG students. And that involves some online learning, about 4 or 5 hours, and then a 40-hour work experience. And they get a $500 academic award for that. Not middle school, but that's juniors and seniors. So when I say we have figures and everything, I'm not kidding. And it's, some schools have programs that deliver, financial literacy to all of the freshmen. It's whatever a school really, curtails their program to be to fit their needs. So, I don't know if there's,
Yeah, it may be on something that I didn't want to spend too much time reading when we were talking
Sure,
about.
yeah.
How do you determine what the eligibility criteria is?
Great question, I meant to talk about that, thank you. So the eligibility is, students have to have one of 6 barriers to their education: economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, students that face inequities, students who struggle academically, students who are recommended by an advisory committee. Every program develops an advisory committee within that building, usually involves guidance, an administrator, maybe a social worker, maybe someone from special ed. And I'm missing one, it's on there somewhere though. There is one other barrier that they can qualify with.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to pick up on that, because I may have mentioned this, it was a long time ago since we had our last meeting, so I don't remember what I said or not. But it's something I'm really proud of. We had JMG, not only was Kelly our specialist when I was in RSU4, but we had JMG and when I was in Holden for those 2 years. And my second year that I was in Holden, 4 of our top 10 graduates, so 4 of the top 10 were JMG students. So it's just changed so much since what it was when it initially began, sort of servicing only a small segment of the population, but the program has really changed dramatically.
Yeah,
And made availabilities for essentially all kids.
Yeah, it really is for just about anybody. There is a recruitment process where we try to grab those kids who don't have a lot of other services. Although, students with disabilities, of course, have other services, but they may need that career support. Kind of the rules that we go by is it's called need, want, benefit. Almost everybody needs it. Who doesn't need the career and financial literacy curriculum, but do they want it? Not always in the beginning, but they grow to want it, and then we assess if they can benefit from it. So, a student in the beginning of the year who isn't there, it's really hard for them to benefit from JMG. So we might not save that slot. We might save it for the kids, the kid that's there. We'll try to get them in and get them that reason to come to school. They're, you guys may have seen this. I've seen it plenty of times. Some days, on the alternating schedule, kids will only come to school on the days they have JMG. It's a good connection for them. Yeah, good question, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Carrasco? Catherine?
Jay, do you want to add?
I just have a lot of positive experience with JMG in my former district. And I really worked with Kelly very hard over the years to grow the program in our building and have our own specialist that wasn't really attached to the technical center, even though we shared a little bit. And we kind of worked really hard to develop just that, right? What were our needs? What were what population of students were we not serving that were disadvantaged, that didn't have the services? And we worked to really find kids, that easily would sort of slip into the background, perhaps academically, social, emotionally, or attendance-wise would potentially be at risk and slip through the cracks. Maybe in your class for an entire quarter, and probably not say anything, and sit toward the middle of the classroom, and if you didn't say anything to them, you'd never know they were even there. It was those kind of kids that needed the mentoring and the coaching and then benefited from the career exploration. So at the high school, I see, a great need, and Sarah and I have worked with some RTI stuff and identifying some kids that our new ed tech's going to work with that would also piggyback and benefit from this kind of instruction, and it aligns really nicely with our community service requirements. And that, that career exploration, I keep referencing that we get more kids at CATSI now than we have in quite a while. And that, that career readiness piece aligns really well. So, something that I am really passionate about trying to bring to the high school, sooner than later, if we can.
So what does the next step look like?
So I was just gonna ask Kelly to talk a little more about that. So obviously it's on here as a discussion item tonight, we're not looking to vote on it. And we might have pushed for a vote at some point sooner, but when we met with Matt and Kelly, they're not really in a position to add the program now. So can you answer this question about when?
Well, I guess my question was more for you, not for Kelly. Should we expect a plan from the school? Should we expect a request for money? What should we expect?
Again, I'm not trying to make this circular, but a lot of those questions we won't know until JMG does their next round of budget and knows what they have available for funding. And then, obviously, we really want to have it in place for next fall, which means it needs to be part of the process. Have you talked at all about the funding part of this? Because I think the changes that you made funding-wise makes me think, why doesn't every school have this? But that also needs to be.
I didn't talk specifics, but essentially it costs us about $75,000 to $80,000 to run a program at a school, and typically we pick up about 2/3 of that cost.
It used to be 50-50. When I first did it, the school split the cost with JMG 50-50. Now it's like 1/3, 2/3.
Yeah.
We get 1/3.
Yeah, right. We pick up about 2/3 of that. And Kelly, to kind of answer your question as best I can, JMG is always out looking for money to support new programs. We do have a list of people who want programs, and that list varies greatly. It varies in terms of the schools just saying, I'd like a JMG program too, but I'll think about it when you come up with the money.
Sure.
And then, of course, we're at a standstill because obviously both sides have to come together to make that happen. We have some other, funding streams going now that some schools, for example, have gotten some programming through DHHS specific dollars, and it's time for them to contribute, and they're struggling. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen there. Come springtime, we'll have a better idea of what is available, if there's something existing that's not going to happen anymore. We very rarely close programs. We really try not to. Usually people don't want to, nor do we, the schools used to having it. But springtime would be the time, I guess an official ask and sort of commitment on your end to Matt St. John would be step one if you were interested.
I wouldn't see it happening until after the first of the year.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So it feels to me like we should be thinking about it in our budget. And by the way, I don't know, I was trying to respond to Mike earlier, but the specialists are hired by JMG. The employees belong to JMG and then work for us, and we pay the 1/3 of the cost. But so that whole process of finding specialists is their problem. Which
we invite you to be part of that process.
Yes.
Like I said, my thinking right now is if we're bringing another curriculum piece, then we need to have some oversight over that. So when is that going to happen? That's the question.
Yeah, I think before we look to have you guys, there's a lot of moving pieces, but before we have you vote to move forward with the project or not, there are already some pieces that are in place. That needs to come to the school board first, school committee first.
So not until the new year at the
Right.
earliest?
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
But I kind of got the sense, last time we met, when everybody was here, that there's interest.
Sure.
That there's no sort of no way in the world we want this. So if there was certainly a case of no interest in looking at this at all, then we would stop looking at it. Now that I get a sense there's interest, now we need to get some of the nuts and bolts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
That's what I'm asking. He said that you would put it in the chat and should show up on.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to change the name of the Winthrop School Committee to the Winthrop School Board as discussed at the September 7th, 2022 meeting. This was tabled from our September 21st meeting.
So moved.
Submitted.
Discussion?
Let me start by saying one of the things I wanted to do was to do some checking on, and I checked with municipal management, I checked with town manager Colbrook. And he said personally he didn't really care. There is one town council member who very specifically refers to us as Board of Education, which is what we refer to in the charter. Somebody here suggested, might have been Kelly, suggested that we consider saying Board of Education, AKA school board. I ran all that by our attorney. I didn't call for this reason, but I had him, so I tried to put the words with one stone. And he said essentially knows what the law says, and said unless there's something lack in clarity, that it really doesn't matter, whatever this body wants to call itself. I personally think just in terms of being kosher with everybody, that we call ourselves the Board of Education, AKA School Board, that we refer to ourselves as School Board all the time, and that's what I would prefer us to be, even though I've now, after 2 years, get pretty comfortable calling ourselves the school committee. But it's weird for me to talk about the school committee and then talk about the finance committee and the policy committee, and because they're different things.
Joe? Tim?
No, I think we should change it to the school board.
Okay. Do you think we should change it just to the school board, or should we make a friendly amendment, Board of Education, also known as school
We
board?
need to write all that, everything, all the paperwork, everything like that.
No, that's why you would change it to say Board of Education, also known as school board.
Then just, yeah, that makes sense.
But we would need a friendly amendment to the current motion to be able to do that.
Okay.
You motioned.
Yeah, so you make the amendment. I'll second it. So I amend, to
DOE, AKA SB.
I'll still second.
Any discussion, Catherine? You're okay with that?
No discussion?
Okay.
Yes?
All right. All those in favor
The amendment.
of the new amendment? Okay. 4-0.
Now you need to vote.
I will entertain a motion to change the name of the Winthrop School Committee to the Winthrop Board of Education, also known as the School Board.
So we'll
That's
second.
not, it's been moved, that's already happened.
Okay, so we just need to take another vote. All those in favor of the change? 4-0.
That's the way it should be developed.
No, except for these.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the Winthrop High School Outing Club being a sanctioned club for the 2022-2023 school year, so that it may access school resources. This was tabled from our September 21st meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay. If you look in your packets, packets, you have a Winthrop High Middle School non-athletic activities informational sheet that was completed by Sarah and Jay. This was the reason that we tabled it was because we didn't have this information that was needed by policy. Does anybody have any questions about the information in the informational sheet and the proposal?
I didn't look, we have 2 of the 4 officers sitting in our table.
With no bias.
Catherine, any questions or comments? Okay, Tim?
I looked at it, I read it, that's fine.
Joe?
So you're talking about the pages that are listed proposal?
Red number 9, 10, 11, and 12. Red page numbers.
Yes, okay, I'm fine.
You're good?
I'm good.
Okay. Sarah and Jay, do either of you want to say anything?
No. I mean, unless you have any questions, but I feel like I've talked to you guys a lot and keeping you informed of what we're doing. I could have been there, I think we're up to 38 kids or something like that, so,
That's awesome.
yeah, there's a lot of interest.
Oh,
Actually, Jay, both of you, but you just completed actually an outing club. Did you have a Camden visit?
We did, yep, we were one of 10 schools that attended, Camden Hill State Park. Yep, we did some community service hours and walked up the access road at sunrise and yeah, the kids just had a great time and got to know each other a little bit better. Yeah, and we're hoping to do a trip this weekend that all works out too. So. Yeah, and what other ideas these guys come up with, we'll do it.
That's good. I knew you had completed it, but I also know that people who went enjoyed it, at least that's what I did. That's great.
great club, great leadership, and I fully support this club accessing our school resources, make it official. It'd be a good thing for our community and our school.
I don't think I mentioned it here, but I did tell you that when I was in the Ivy Club in high school, there's this holdover. Here I am in my early mid-40s. I still can't make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without putting a thumbprint in it because that was the sign of this one's done. Ready to go to bed. So it's still thumbprint of a loaf.
That's your will.
Is that true, Will? Do you ever have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with thumbprints in them? In the center of the bread? He doesn't pay attention.
He's like, it's a sandwich, I'm gonna eat it.
All right. All those in favor? 4-0. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing and hearing all that you do. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the following policies for second reading. BEDA, notification of board meetings. BEDB, agenda. BEDBR, agenda preparation and dissemination process.
Second.
And these are in your policy, red page numbers 13, 14, and 15. And, yeah, 13, 14, 15. And Catherine, you're up.
All right, thank you. How's my volume?
Great.
Okay. All right, so I did want to let you guys know that we have had 2 meetings since the last time we got together. So we do have a front-load of items to cover. The first 3 we're going to talk about are, as was mentioned, for second reading. BEDA is the first one, and I'm getting my hard copies here. I'd like to hear feedback from the committee, the board, as to comments you might have.
It doesn't look like there were any changes made to it. The between first reading and
Right,
second?
so,
I got a question.
Joe?
The section regarding the agenda preparation and school leadership.
Before we go there,
Are we done with that, probably?
no, we're on BEDA right now,
Oh, okay.
notification of school committee meetings. It's red page number 13.
No, it's just 2040.
Uh,
I thought we were taking a line.
But we are, we're talking.
We will vote about them all together, but we'll do them in order first. So any questions, comments, or concerns about the
How does the
BEDA?
change from school committee to school board on this paper tonight?
As we start to change, update, we'll make the changes.
You mentioned switch that up.
Yeah, that's what we had been doing the past few years anyway, changing the board committees, and we're just changing them back to board. The good news is the ones we haven't touched can stay board. So, I guess that's a question, it's a good question, do we want to change this back to committee, from school committee to school board now that we've made that vote, or
I think we thought that.
do we, okay, all right.
And I just wanted to just confirm, that's the question. This was not, looking back at the September one, there were no changes then, and there have been no changes subsequently.
I actually meant to talk about one or two, but here's what I'd like to see. In the BEDA, you specifically talk about the number of days, calendar days, and that have to be available to us in order to take a call regular meeting, as well as a special meeting. But more importantly, you put the legal reference in, so I'm assuming that this is not verbatim necessarily, but this is essentially what is being said in the state statutes as the procedure to go in.
Yes, and that's the same legal reference that has been on this policy since 2014.
Correct. Now, my question became that when you go to the next one, since you use basically the same language, why you do not use a cross-reference there back to the state policy?
Okay, we can talk about that in a minute, too, that's a good question.
So that's the
Okay.
thing.
Any other questions, comments, and concerns about BEDA? Okay. Moving on to BEDB, please, Catherine.
all right, so, as you can see in BEDB, we have had some changes, those are highlighted in yellow. This is again for the second read, so we'd like to get some feedback on what you think about those changes. The things that are struck out, and then the electronically on has been added in, and the district website.
So actually, I'm going to indirectly, well, I'm going to directly answer your question, which I was going to anyway. This is an error on my part in redoing this. The very last highlighted cross-reference, BEDB, which is what is the policy that's here, so it doesn't cross-reference itself. But then looking above it, BEDA has no notification of committee meetings. That goes back to the references that you asked about, so instead of, we could list them all for every one, but that's why we have a cross-reference. So I would suggest that the last thing in there be crossed out.
Is that just a typo, right?
That's just an unintentional delete that was added. Because as I go back and look at last month's, those were the two changes we made from last month. We added, well, we should have only made one change. We should have just added BEDA because of the exact reason that Joe just said. And I should not have added BEDB because that's the policy it is.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns about BEDB? Moving on to BEDBR, please, Catherine.
All right, so BEDDR is much like the first one, which this is for our second read from a month ago. And there were not any changes to this one either.
No
But
change
we're
from
welcome
the
to
first.
give any feedback. No, this is, sorry, did I say, I meant, second read, this is second read.
Right. You said that there were no changes, and I just wanted to clarify, there were no changes since the first reading.
Correct.
Because there are
Right,
substantive
right,
changes.
right.
Okay,
Right.
excellent, thank you.
Sorry.
Any questions, comments, or concerns about BEDVR, the agenda format, the changes that were made during first reading and no changes between first reading and second reading?
So it's pretty picky, but if you see it, so under public comments, which is the major substantive change that we made, is we put that up at the beginning of the agenda. This is bold. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Not intended to be bolded.
So that'll be unbolded.
It'll be unbolded, correct. And unlike, not as big Joe asked this, but this is a procedure, not a policy, so the cross-references are not there.
Anything else? Okay, all those in
Right.
favor of approving BEDA, notification of board meetings, BEDB, agenda, and BEDBR, agenda preparation and dissemination process as written with the slight changes to formatting that were discussed tonight. All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you all. Okay, next topic, facilities repair update.
And you're going to run the notes here.
Okay.
This is an area that has received a great deal of attention over the last few months. We were initially calling this a performance contract, had some discussion about what actually a performance contract is or whatever, so we're actually referring to it as a capital improvement project. So I don't know why I wrote facilities repair update, but it's essentially what we're talking about. You know that this committee has selected 6 projects, and we had gone through an RFQ process for that. It has been kind of in the town council's lap to deal with. We need an affirmative vote from the town council according to charter for financing. So this is part of my learning curve. There were some parts about this that I thought were following policies.
Can you just
You, Kathy? Kathy, can you mute? Get her back on.
Okay,
She's good. She's
Thank
good.
you.
Anyway, this will go before the town council for a vote on November 7th. Had some subsequent conversations with our attorney, who I just said to him, you're my attorney. If we screwed up or I screwed up somewhere along the way here, please tell me. And he said, no. We made the decision initially to select Siemens, and we picked 6 projects from the list that they gave us. And they subsequently gave us a price which initially was $5.2 million. We quickly became, we meaning primarily the committee members that we put together to select the projects, were concerned about that and did some further digging, and then I brought it back here, and we felt that we did not want to continue to move forward with Siemens. So at that point, I looked at policy DJ, which I had sent out to all of you to look at, and there's a part in DJ, I think it's in part C, that essentially says we can forego the RFQ process. We don't have to go through it again if we reject the vendor. If there's some, if there's good, I don't have it in front of me, I meant to bring it with me, but basically it's for good reason. You can't just do it randomly, there's got to be some reason for it. From my perspective, the good reason, if nothing else, is the difference between paying $6.2 million to have Siemens do it and having $3.1 million dollars for another company to do it. So that alone, I felt gave us cause to follow policy DJ and to make the decision to go away from Siemens and go with a different company. Our attorney's opinion is that probably is fine, but he said if we wanted to make this crystal clear, perfectly the way it, you know, above board, so to speak, without question, it feels like the town council wants to move towards a bond approach as opposed to a tax exempt lease purchase, which is kind of what we were thinking. Then it requires the town council to approve the amount. It's an important distinction. I actually brought that up here too. They approve a amount. You still have an offer month, right? Yeah. Anyway, I sent you, and I didn't make copies for myself, a copy of the comparison, the side-by-side comparison that our attorney sent us. And it says that the town council needs to vote. In my experience with bonds, it had to go out to the community to vote on it. But in a single municipality like Winthrop, it only requires a vote, a double vote of the town council. What he suggests, and what I'm suggesting to you, is that on November 7th, if there's an affirmative vote, which I anticipate there will be, for an amount, not a vendor, they don't get to select a vendor when you do, that we then go out to RFQ again. And if you think that's a little crazy, then I don't think it is, because basically we're going to end up with either a bid of 3.1 or lower. So we could then choose, unless there's reason not to, we could choose the lower bid. So they will approve an amount, they will finance, and then we will pick a vendor between the first meeting in November and the second town council meeting in December, in which case they will vote a second time, and then we'll be ready to go with the project. I'm happy, very happy that it's moving. I have been overwhelmed with the support, the number of people who have reached out in support, and you guys should feel really good about this, that some of the questions about how did I build this into this condition, it's like, you know what, I can spend a lot of time and energy thinking about that. That's not really the important piece. This school board has taken on the position of we need to do something about it, and I think we've done it, you've done it, and I think you should feel good about it as a school board, and the fact that we should be able to deliver a project that one company was going to charge us $6.2 million for to get the same scope and quality of service for $3.1 million, saving the taxpayers of Winthrop $3.1 million is something you should feel very good about. So that's where things stand right now.
Any questions or comments or concerns we do? Yep.
One of the things that I continuously heard is people talking about how is this going to be paid for? And I think it would be appropriate to explain, even for the committee here, the board here, to know how it's going to be paid for too. Because I'm thinking that that's going to be your first question next Monday night.
I think we've already had that question from the town council. I think they know that answer, but it's a great idea to get it on the record.
I think it's on the record as well.
Yeah. So part of my discussion with the town manager, Colbrook, is why it's not a performance contract. It's a performance contract. The vendor takes on they will tell you what the cost is going to be or what the savings is going to be, and to the extent that you don't meet those savings, they have to pay the difference. So you have a guarantee. That's not necessarily the case. Part of it is because two of the projects that we're looking to do don't have cost savings attached to them. The fire suppression system is a replacement. There's no savings there. The electrical panel upgrades is a replacement, a safety thing, not that. So the lighting, the boilers are major savings issues. So the expectation is we do have some projected numbers from the company we've been working with, that we will be putting out for the RFQ, about what the savings will be. The total bond is somewhere in the neighborhood of $260,000. I think it's actually slightly less than that, which will become part of our budget. We will not have to budget $260,000 because the boiler savings, especially moving the propane, and the lighting savings will reduce that number by well over $100,000. So it will cost us about an additional $150,000 at the most. We're actually projecting less than that, but to you know, I don't really tell people it's going to be 100,000 and have it be 150. I'd rather tell them it's 150 and have it be 100. That would be part of our budget for the length of the bond. And the next question is, well, which bond? That's the town's decision to make. We had a conversation with the town manager and the finance manager with a company that does the taxi company purchase. They sent us some numbers, and then town manager Colbrook has basically got three numbers, or three 15-year, 16-year, 17-year bond with rates, and done a comparison. And quite frankly, the bond saves them, saves the taxpayers the most money. From my perspective, the process is a little more cumbersome. At this point, it doesn't matter to me. I just said I don't care. But if it takes 2 months to, at this point, it's already been delayed long enough. It takes 2 months to go through a process that's going to save us $7,000 or $8,000 a year. Then let's do that. So the cost is probably going to be somewhere in $260,000 a year, of which we're going to be responsible for about $150,000 of that in the budget.
Then one thing that you haven't said here yet, that we have discussed at the town council meetings, is there's no payment in the first year.
Yeah. Well, that's subjective. I think there is no, by the time they get the work done, it will probably be too late. It will be kicked to the next fiscal year. To me, that's not a major selling point. It might be for some people, because to me, that's the difference. Let's say we go with a 15-year bond. That's the difference between having that be a 15-year bond and being a 16-year bond. Once we start paying, it's going to be 15 years. What it does do, this is probably where you were going, Kelly, is that we're trying to say that the town council initially is, well, there were some people who were concerned about coming out of the FY23 budget. Nothing will come out of the FY23 budget. We will be able to plan for it for taxpayers for the FY24 budget moving forward. And if that's, if what has been referred to, referenced is, we're going to receive about $100,000 or so in efficiency main rebates, and so we certainly, it would be wise for us to consider using whatever that rebate money is to make the first payment. To me, it's about getting the payment started. It's nice to put it off for a year so we can plan for it, but to me, the timeline for repayment kicks in when you start paying for it. So we will get rebate money in that first year. We certainly can put that towards it. So the first year will cost less than the 150 cap that we're talking about. So the frustrating thing for me, to speak personally about this, is I think this has been, not intentionally, but I think it's been, I think you guys have spent a lot of time. I went back and looked, and we had the first conversation about this way back in December, when the boiler, we came to school the day of the school committee meeting, and there was no, the boilers were down. And we were told we were not going to be able to get them repaired that day. Well, as it turned out, I don't know what fairy godmother somebody wished upon, but we did get somebody there. It stayed warm enough in the buildings. We had water, and we got somebody there, and we got it up to speed. But that was when I don't know how many times the boilers had hiccups of that type of thing, all of the boilers. And it just made us really realize that we needed to get moving on this. And I can tell you that basically every single meeting from December until pretty much every meeting since then, there has been some sort of conversation about the need for us to start addressing this and looking at ways to do that. So I think you guys have more than done your due diligence in looking at this process. And when we were being questioned about I think there's some history about the relationship between the town and the school. For me, and I think for the town manager, we like to think of it's left pocket, right pocket. So, you know, it's taxpayer money, whether it's town money or school money. So we've really tried to work hard to work together to get rid of that sort of separation. And I can see now, I feel like your work has been somewhat, I don't know, not appreciated when when people are asking questions that, quite frankly, from my perspective, is yours to deal with. Theirs is very clearly by charter to decide on finances, and I think they've done, I give them credit for making sure that we are not entering into a bad project that will, because by doing, the other thing I meant to mention earlier is by doing a bond, the town will assume, the town, not the school, the town will assume all the risk. If we default on the bond, the town has to pay for it. Now, we're not going to default, but they need to make sure all of those dotted and T's are crossed, and I think now they are.
Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yes and no. Let's talk about this. The project basically, to us, is costing $3.1 million.
Correct.
So that's basically what the bond is going to be for, isn't it?
Correct.
And that's good. I mean, that's really what, just telling people, no, we have to invest this kind of money to make the repairs.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that we'll all be glad that it's done, and I think I may would have known when I talked to the fire chief. He said he'd be glad to go down and talk it on behalf as to why we've got to get it done.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if it wasn't for the fire chief, I'm glad you brought that up. If it wasn't for Chief Brooks, this school would not be open. When I was hired 2+ years ago, one of the very first conversations I had was with then Principal Jeff Ladd, who said, we have a huge problem. The fire suppression system is not up to code, and we are basically being told, because it doesn't matter why, but basically that Winthrop Grade School is not going to be able to open. Chief Brooks intervened on our behalf at the fire marshal's office, and we are open because of him.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns from Tim or Catherine?
I got more notes here, or other things, I might. I'm just a little rusty, guys.
Just print out a picture.
I
The
know.
rest of the stuff doesn't need to get put away.
Well,
Okay, no comments on the Zoom, and nothing here. Okay. So that was just discussion, no motions or movements.
Right.
Next section, EPA grant for electrical buses update.
So I sent you out the information, and this is more for public record. We have been approved for 4 buses. I can tell you that we had a community member who was answering questions, and I reached out to that person and met with that person to discuss the buses. I think there's a lot of confusion, because we're talking about $3.1 million project here, and then we're talking about getting about $1.6 million. Don't hold me to the numbers, but $1.6 million worth of buses. Like, well, wait a minute, why not take that $1.6 million and use it towards the school? And I had already shared with the council, not surprisingly, none of the questions came from the council, because when I did get to talk to them several months ago, I told them we were applying for this, and this is a grant. And to me, I always start with the bottom line is this. The federal government is giving away $5 million worth of buses over the next 5 years. Winthrop, which was earmarked on their list to receive 25 buses. That's true, but it's funny more than anything else. If we don't take the buses, we don't take buses from them, somebody else is going to. It's not like we're not going to realize we either take the buses or we don't take the buses. The buses are $375,000 each, plus we get an additional $20,000 for each charging station. It was a competitive process. I personally had to take some convincing. I initially wanted one. I had some concerns or questions about electric buses. I got, I think, some good answers from the people that a company called Lion Electric is doing the servicing or the bidding work for the Northeast in Canada. They're actually out of Canada. And after talking to them and talking to Pat Hinckley, who's formerly with the Department of Education, the transportation person, the committee that I had put together, chose to apply for 4, and we received them. We have a meeting tomorrow morning, a Zoom meeting tomorrow morning at 9:15 to, again, dot some I's and cross some T's, and then as soon as all that stuff is done, then the buses will go into production. They will not be, we won't see them it's like anything else. They guarantee we'll have them before the fall of '23. So if we get these 4 buses, we have been approved for 2 diesel buses from the state, which we have to pay for. And we have the 1 bus that we, out of the 5 that we purchased, that's good. That takes our personal fleet here in Winthrop to 7 buses. Also begin a process, this is off topic, I shouldn't say this, but basically, we have the 4 buses. It was a good process. I'm excited, I'm nervous. One of the questions that people have been asking, and again, I want to answer it for the public, is what about servicing? You know, this is a fairly new thing. At this point, there are 3 technicians in the state of Maine that are working on electric buses. Statewide, there aren't that many electric buses in the state, first of all, but there are 3 technicians with plans to have more, and they come to you. So if we have an issue with, once we get our buses on the road, they will come to us if there are problems. The other thing that was a concern of mine and came less of a concern as I was talking through this process is the range of how far they can travel. And right now, they're still limited to 150 miles. So I'd be like, well, that's one of the big reasons we want to go with the new diesel buses. Our intent is that we will use electric buses around town. All of our routes around town are well within that, that travel distance. And we will use our new diesel buses to do our out-of-town extracurricular trips. So those are the big questions that I was asked. So I wanted to get that out there.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Sure. Where would the charging stations be for the buses?
At the middle school.
Middle school?
All the buses are, we are in the process right now of, we moved our buses, they used to be at the,
Gravel pit parking lot?
Center.
well,
Behind the old
Public
fire
Works.
station.
Public Works.
Yeah,
So
that's-
now they've been up at the middle school and we're putting our charging stations, our walking line stations up at the middle school. That work will be happening in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
All right.
And then the charging stations, when they come in, will also be up there.
Thank you. Good question.
I would mention the other question that's floating in the air. Is when are we going to build that garage?
We don't need a garage.
For storage or for service? What do you mean by
It's
storage?
kind of like both. I mean, this is a topic we've had for 25 years.
Sure.
And I obviously don't know really about even where to plug them in. Okay, I guess it's more than just like cord.
No, that's it.
I know, but the question was is that with so many electronic components in an electric bus, and the likelihood that if you park them outdoors all the time, that moisture, particularly some kind of water is going to get in there, that we don't know, and perhaps nobody knows. I know some cities have got electric buses, and some others have electric buses. But, there are people who I think legitimately ask the question, saying, is this good? And then I explain, well, it's even better because we're not fronting the cost for these things. And we're doing a maintenance agreement, and as you said, I think in the paper about being a guinea pig, you weren't comfortable. I'm comfortable at that price, being a guinea pig.
But actually, you asked two questions there that I was all asked, and I want to address them. Everything we're being told right now, we had presentations from superintendents of some Midwest schools in like Iowa and North Dakota, also very cold, and because that is one of the concerns that has been brought up. The person I spoke to talked about they had an electric bus, minibus type of thing that they brought workers from the parking lot to the workplace that had an issue in the winter time. That has been a concern. They're telling us now that's not as big a concern as it's been in the past. And the second question related to that has to do with service, and that's I want to continue to look at that. And I thought you were heading this way, Joe. 25 years ago, Winthrop had a service agreement with Rambler, and I know because I was in Rambler at the time. And that was one of the things that I talked about today. I am the director of the Regional Service Center for this area, and those are the types of things we should be looking at right now. It's not just for our electric buses, but for our diesel buses. If we stay in a contract with if we stay in a contract with, say, Northeast, they will continue to do the service particularly on the diesel part. But if we somehow able to buy our own, get our own drivers, and that's I want to make sure it's a separate issue, but it's, if I want to get our fleet back, and if you've heard me, that's repeatedly what I've said. That's my number one goal, is to get that, not number one goal in this area, is to get that back. Ideally, we get our own drivers and we would stop contracting. I think we could save money doing that the way money things have taken off. However, we don't have to. We can, if we have buses, we can continue to contract. There are at least a half a dozen vendors, including Northeast Charter, that will continue to provide drivers to us, and we can continue to provide the buses. So, two totally separate things. But I don't think we're going to need a garage, and I think we're going to need to, I would like to see us enter into some sort of agreement with Hallvale and Randall, or either of them, or it could be somebody else, to do some sort of maintenance agreement on our buses, share that cost.
Next item is the school revolving renovation fund application update.
So Joel is obviously at the field hockey game tonight. So I'll do this. So I apologize right now. I don't have nearly as much information about this as he does, but it really is actually a simple, I hope a simple report, but if you ask questions, I may not be able to answer them. We have applied, or we're in the process of applying for, and part of that process, Joel has to get estimates, not bids, estimates. And we applied last year, and as you know, we got two of the things, but we didn't get some of the other bigger ones. And one of the ones we didn't get was pavement that we wanted to do with the grade school. Subsequently, as you may recall, last spring we received an ADA compliance complaint, and we had to deal with the federal ADA people on what the complaint was. First of all, I would just say that Jolene and the gentleman that we were dealing with, the ADA, have done the majority of the work on this, and he's been great to work with, and Jolene's always great to work with. But what this sort of did, it's sort of serendipitous that by getting this complaint, Joel talked to the remote renovation fund people. We have a complaint lodged against us that basically rockets us to the top of the list because it has to do with ADA compliance. And so Joel has completed an application for paving at the grade school area. Don't know how much at this point. We are pretty limited in terms of what we need to fix, but if we can do more, then we're going to try to do more. We're going to try and use this bad thing that happened to us to our advantage. So that is in. You don't have to do anything with that until we get it back, and then if we are approved, it's just like the one we got last year. If we're approved, you have to vote to accept it, and if you accept it, means that there is a certain amount of money that and I hate to keep throwing numbers up, but people, I don't want you to hold me to these. I'm just making these up off the top of my head. But if we had a project that was approved for, say, $300,000 through the Revolving Renovation Fund to pave the area that needs to be paved for ADA compliance, a portion of that, somewhere close to 50%, will be forgiven. My understanding, if I remember correctly, is we will have to pay that money. We either bond it, or we have money to pay for it. I honestly think we're going to have money to pay for it. And then we get the rest of the money back. We get about 50% of the bond forgiven through the Revolving Renovation Fund. So that's where things stand with that.
So we front it all and then get that back?
Well, yes, we have to finance it.
Any questions, comments, or concerns?
And I don't, I guess I'm just thinking about what I just said. I don't want to be left about the fact that we had an ADA compliance, like that's a good thing. It's not. But, things happen. Again, it's like a lot of things. I think it was things that probably should have been taken care of in the past. They weren't taken care of in the past. We had a parent who was concerned about access, handicap accessibility, very legitimate thing to be concerned about. Filed a complaint, and this is the result of it. The gentleman we were working with in DC, or actually it's out of Boston, he's been great.
All right, new business. Discussion regarding Representative Hassenfuss securing legislative sentiment for Ginny Bryant and Sharon Colton for their many years of distinguished service to the Winthrop schools.
So generally speaking, these types of legislative sentiments are given to like championship teams and when they win the states and blah, 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 kind of thing. I don't mean to do that. It's very important and well deserved, like when we got them last year. But that's usually where it happens. Without any prompting from anybody that I'm aware of, Representative Hassenfuss introduced legislative sentiment to recognize both Sharon Colton and Ginny Bryant, who have 39 plus years of teaching here in Winthrop, for their incredible service to our community, and it has been approved. Typically, if it was a sports type thing, you would have, you had a banquet or something. So one of the things we've been kind of struggling with is when to make this happen. He has them in hand. So I've been working with Jolene and with Representative Hassenfuss to figure out when to do it for Ginny, and Joel has been working with Representative Hassenfuss about when to do it for Sharon. And honestly, I don't know, and I'm ashamed to say I don't know, it may have already happened for her. It did?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so, because he didn't ask me about her, he only asked me about Ginny, so either they have a plan for Sharon, or they don't. Jolie and I talked about it, typically you would try to keep this a little quieter type of thing, but I really felt like I needed to let you guys know. And it is quite an accomplishment, and I'm very appreciative of Representative Hassenfuss doing this, and I don't know who sort of put him onto the idea, maybe nobody, maybe just him. My guess would be he had both of those teachers in school. So it's pretty awesome. So I just wanted to.
He's also active in sports, so if you.
Yeah.
Okay, discussion regarding superintendent's contract.
This is really the discussion for you guys. It's November. According to the policy, you have to, we used to do my evaluation in December. And I had shared with you the last 2 years that you didn't have to do this, even though we did it anyway. But my contract does run out at the end of June decision before the end of December, what you want to do. So it's really up to you to decide what the process is going to be. And your decision can range anywhere from let my contract expire in June of 23, in which case I just, as much notice as possible is appreciated, or you can approve an additional extension of the contract, whichever you want to do up to 5 years.
So it sounds like we're gonna need to have a motion to vote on it, but is that something where we have that discussion in public session or in executive session and then vote in public session?
I think you have it in an executive session and vote in public.
So can we set an executive session for our next meeting so that we can start that discussion, so that in December we can vote?
Is that, okay? That's fine with me. Did you have any data or anything on any, I guess it doesn't matter, that makes sense.
I mean, we have your evaluation that we've done already, and if we find during that executive session that we need more information,
That makes sense.
then we can request them. I'd like to be. Do any of you have any objection to setting an executive session during our next meeting?
It's fine.
Everyone no, two no? Jim? No? Okay, and I don't think that Sue would either. Okay, so let's add that to our next meeting then. Next, discussion regarding the 612 music teacher position.
So I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to share here. We have been fortunate, and Jay and Lori, either one of you can jump in if you want, but we did have an application for the vacant 612 music position. Presently, the person is not certified, but we believe can be certified, so is in the process of doing that. He has been hired as a long-term sub and is doing the job presently. So I just wanted to bring the school board up to speed on that. Is there anything more that needs to be added?
He has, at least the middle school, just jumped right in, doing a really nice job learning the school, the culture, the climate, making connections with the kids. There is actual music happening in the music room. It's a wonderful, wonderful sound. He's incredibly enthusiastic. One of his mentors is Patty English, and she actually gave him the lead on this position. So he's working diligently to get certified. He does have a bachelor's degree in music performance, not music education. However, he was on that track for his undergrad until his senior year. So it will be very easy for him, I believe, to be certified, and he's working with the Department of Education right now.
So with, once we get that certification, then we'll have a motion at a future agenda to, I will nominate him and you'll consider him.
Are there any plans right now while he's as a long-term sub to start band up again?
He is starting it, yes.
Do we know when?
The 6th grade schedule is a little dicey, so I think that's the one area that we're trying to work on right now, because we had built the schedule with no music teacher. So we've plugged those students into other activities. So at this point he has started working with our 7th and 8th graders right now during a tutorial block, and he is building his schedule to include 6th grade.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
I know one 6th grader who would be open.
Absolutely, and the 6th graders have had him for general music right now.
Okay,
So they're getting to know him.
awesome. Thank you so much. Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just worked with Jason today and passed along some documentation to Colleen about his CHRC and certification, so hopefully we'll get that going soon.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Thank you all. All right. This is a motion to approve the following policies for first reading. GBGB, workplace bullying, as a draft. IGA, curriculum development and adoption, as a draft. IBHA, individualized education programs. IHBAL, grievance procedure for persons with disabilities. IHBCG, services for parentally placed private school children, including homeschool children. IMGA, service animals in schools. JICJ, student use of cellular telephones and other electronic devices, which will replace JFCK. And KDA, public information program draft. I can vote for these.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. Catherine, you're up.
All right.
Kathy, before you go too deep,
Checking in.
I just want to add one thing. I have no idea why it says draft after those ones that say draft. Every first reading, all of these are drafts, so
Okay.
we can just.
So it's nothing special. It wasn't like it's just me. Oh, okay.
All right, well, thank you very much. The first two that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to shift to ones that is Sue either present or,
Sue is present.
okay. So we're going to talk about the first two, and then I'm going to ask Sue to also speak for the ones pertaining to her specialty. So for workplace bullying, which is GBGB, this is a first read, and we're very interested in comments and questions that you might have about this.
Currently, are there any questions, comments, or concerns on GBGB?
My concern is not to rush this. I'd like to see us, put off discussion of this one in particular, maybe there's a couple others there too, until another meeting to give us more time to look at this.
This is just a first reading. We're not making any decisions today. So having a discussion, I don't think would be a horrible thing, to just get the ball rolling. And then we will be revisiting this at least one more time, and the policy subcommittee will be revisiting it as well between now and a second reading. Go ahead.
I guess the issue is I wasn't here for some of these conversations, and for instance, I'm looking at mine, I just call it GBGB, and I started, you remember before making notes at the top. Now this one doesn't have any specific changes from what was there before. This policy was initially adopted, and no, it wasn't. We haven't had this.
I think that's why it says draft.
Yes.
So don't even,
Yeah.
not even I saw it before.
And just so you know, I was making notes at the top, and for some reason Colleen either didn't have these or she might have got these from Sue. I was trying to put up top where they came from, one of the things I've been asked before. This does not have a specific main school management recommendation, but this is another example of one of the policies that schools and or just looking at other places where people have been. This didn't come from delegate assembly, doesn't come from state statute. It's one of the things that the lawyers would say is prudent to the successful workplace or whatever, work environment, something through that place. So, yeah. So we put this draft together. Maybe that's why it says draft, because we didn't have it before. But this is, what you're seeing here is not exactly what I have in mind, but this one does happen to match without the exception of that note that I just said.
So not an SMA suggested.
Right. No, it wasn't, it's not that it's not suggested, it's not, it didn't, it doesn't really tell you where the origin is.
Originally. Okay. All right.
But I would say, I think it's a necessary policy.
Now,
And
did I just get answer the ones? One of my confusions was in the first sentence, where we're talking about we're committed to providing an inclusive workplace for employees, whether it's free from bullying content. Well, first I said, now, this is just for employees. Then I see the second line, we start talking about students. That's my comment, is a little confusing when we're looking at this. Are we gonna have a separate one for students and a separate one for employees, or is this a joint?
That's a great question, Joe, I don't know the answer.
I don't, I think it's important to have, that's not the question. But it's just, that's one of the things that we really need to look at.
Yes, Joe, I shared your slight confusion, and the piece I think this is referring to workplace bullying, and so the employees are at work versus the parents and the students and community members, that's not their place of work. So I think that's the legal distinction, that this is workplace bullying. I think that was what I understood to be that piece, that we have that interesting bit that we have some people that in the building who we still, of course, want to be treated respectfully, but they're different than people. The workplace bullying is a legal piece that's a little different.
Excuse me. And none of this is included in their contract.
No.
Okay. All right.
I do believe there is a mandatory statement that has some policy for workplace bullying. I believe not in a contract, but as a separate, I believe.
Okay.
But we can look into it.
Okay.
Good point.
All right. Moving on to IGA.
So IGA, I'd like to share, is coming from the delegate assembly. This is something that was voted on and agreed on by the most recent delegate assembly, and it is replacing an existing language, but that's where this is coming from. And in our policy committee, we have we've already suggested the yellow changes that you can see, and we're eager to hear what you think about this.
Okay. Any comments, questions, or concerns today about IGA?
Well, I think one of you just raised about negotiations and school contracts and everything. Pretty sure with summer contracts, we have professional development, they're trying to get the association with, to associate with, in the sense that we're trying to put hours dedicated for professional development. Now, I don't know if that really fits into this completely or not, but I guess that's, the delegate assembly, did they talk about this might have to be or should be in the contracts?
Sorry, I was muted. No, Joe, not that I recall that we did not speak about this with the contract.
Okay, it's a good thing to keep in mind when we're looking at this. Thank you, Joe. IHBA, you'd like Sue to speak on this one?
Muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, so we do have, if Sue's available, we do have the next ones that are in her purview. So if she'd like to speak to those.
So IHBA, which is Individualized Education Programs, there were no changes that were recommended on this one. This was a policy that was adopted in 2003. It still complies with the state and federal regulations, and so there were no changes that were recommended on this one.
Questions, comments, or concerns on IHBA? Yep.
Is it possible to have an IEP and be considered a regular student? I'm trying to find a word to use that. I don't know what it is, but
A mainstream student?
mainstream student or something.
So my philosophy is all special ed students are general ed students first. Every student is a general ed student. There are some students that also require an individualized education program to access their educational program. And that's where this covers for those students, but they can be receiving mainstream instruction and have an IEP.
And then we have a bunch of other layers with our TI now.
Yes.
What is-
Response to
Response to
intervention.
intervention, sorry, use that jargon.
Well, so what happens if you have a student that wants to accelerate their program? Don't you make some kind of a contract with them that they've got to do all of these things? That's what I'm trying to say, that
It's usually in 504.
are there some
Like
kind of
GT.
specialized programs?
Are you talking on the other end, the gifted and
Yeah, yeah.
talented side?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking, Joe, like those students that are accelerated that want? So for instance, they have a fifth grader who may be accelerated in math and may attend the middle school for a math program.
Right.
But that's not under this part. This is specific to the state and federal laws around special education students.
But that does exist.
But it doesn't, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's great that it does exist. I was just trying to see how we did all those things.
The next one, are you all set with that first one?
I think so.
Okay.
Tim, do you have any questions?
No,
IHBAL, and Catherine, I may go back to you only because this one, there was some questions that we chatted about, specifically around the term, the ADA/504 compliance coordinator. That is not a term that, this is the first time I've ever seen that term, as far as Winthrop goes. I don't know if that's me. I don't know. So that would be just something that I think needs further discussion on who is that person, because in my role currently, I do not oversee 504 programming in the district.
Yeah, what should happen there, and I circled it and started in my policy, is it should say ADA, not ADA, affirmative.
No, this is ADA, Americans with
I know it.
Disabilities Act.
So, but are you the ADA coordinator?
And
De facto?
I don't, 504 falls under the ADA, but I don't do anything with 504. That's,
So,
that is.
well, each building has a 504 coordinator, so I'm saying it should be separated. It should be ADA, whatever the right term is, and, or 504 coordinator. It shouldn't put the two together.
So for me, ADA covers both IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and 504. So ADA is the top branch for both of those.
We need further conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, so I started.
Thank you. And I think that was, Catherine, am I right that that was all that we chatted about with this one?
Yes, we had the same concerns and circled that, and just need resolution as to who the coordinator should be and what is their description.
Any questions on that one?
I think those are great questions.
In particular, dealing with grievances, is this state language, or is this, I'm wondering where the language comes from, and it's ironic, I do remember we discussed this in 2008, because we spent a lot of time on it. And so I'm just curious, there's no reference here to the state statute or something else, is what I was looking for.
So actually, I think that's another really good point. If you look up in the first paragraph, it does make reference to the federal law, and those should be, those legal references should be in the law.
That's right.
There's a lot of policies that happen in the body, but also at the bottom, because a lot of times people just want to go to the bottom and see what the legal references are.
That's
Right. I think there was a formatting, I don't know what you're seeing on your end. I think there was a formatting issue with this. If you look, because it ended abruptly in a way that seemed a bit unfamiliar, but I think if you look at Red 24, you will actually see that perhaps the formatting is a bit off, because then on Red 25 is the references for that, for IDH. Oh, am I on the next one? Oh, I'm just speaking. I think I'm on the next one. Or no, I'm not.
Well, I see what you're saying, that it doesn't say adopted and reviewed or anything like that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. So yes, the end of this one, sorry guys. The end of Red 22, we also noted it didn't seem like there was a conclusive statement. It felt like it just fell off. We weren't sure if there was something missing, but because even in the text, not just the adopted and the date and whatnot, it just step one, step two sort of felt like there was something missing at the end of it.
Okay. Okay.
So just sort of in general, let me just take a real quick break in terms of this, and this is more for this general purposes. The intent, never been met in all the years I've been doing this, is that all policies are supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. This one is 2008, 14 years ago. So it shouldn't surprise people, well, actually it should surprise people, that something that's this old doesn't need some sort of revision. But it's like the one before this, there are going to be some policies that we see that don't have any changes, and that's okay. But they would like to see in terms of a policy audit that somebody has reviewed them or laid eyes on them in the past 5 years.
All right. So we've got some work to do on that one. Okay. IHBCG.
And this one looked okay, other than there was one error or change that we made was in regards to the words pupil evaluation team, which was used probably up until the late 90s. It is now called the IDP team, and so we made that change. That was the only change that we made there.
Sometimes it happens too, because this is one of the ones that you guys did when I wasn't here. I'm just making, I found one,
So far, it looks like just one.
and that's in paragraph 4. Whatever, I'll flag it, it's all.
It's in 5.
Yeah, the IEP team, pupil evaluation team, which the pupil evaluation team should be removed.
And the need.
Yeah.
And then 8.
Yeah.
Oh, and 6.
Middle of 8.
And 6.
Just makes it easier when I flag it now.
Do you know how to?
Yeah, I do, but I don't want to change anything right now.
Great, you can search in highlights.
I don't know. Maybe we can find it in 6.
It's on the third line. Right here.
I said here, so it's not the same.
Are you on IHBCG?
It's not with.
Starts with the Winthrop Public Schools, not the IEP team, pupil evaluation team shall make the final decisions. It's right in the first one. INGA.
All right, IMGA, thank you very much, Sue. IMGA is Service Animals in School, and we're hoping to have a robust conversation about this. And if you're not ready for that today, maybe we can make sure to plan for it for the next time. Did anybody come with comments, thoughts about the sale?
I did not come prepared for a robust conversation.
Okay,
No, none of
Okay.
us did.
This is
all
falls,
right.
checklist for prudent, just good school oversight on your list of things to add before.
That's right.
And I don't have any mock-ups on this,
I don't see anything.
but this only because I don't know why this got discussed yet. So I would suggest taking this one off the list. What's next?
Okay.
Wait, what are we, I'm sorry,
Well,
I might have missed something.
do we really need to remove it as from the first reading
I guess not.
list? No. Okay. Okay. We will be better prepared at our next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
Kelly, can I just-
All right, are we ready for the next one?
Sue has a question or
Just,
comment.
it's actually just a comment, and it's really not a huge one, but it's, what I'm noticing as I read many of the policies that are related to special education, the title of my position changes. So, in this one, it refers to it as the Director of Special Services. In the last policy we reviewed, it references as the Director of Special Education. And it doesn't really matter, it's probably the same job, but we probably should determine which it is and be consistent.
What is your, I don't know, actual title right now?
I go by book, so,
I'll look in your contract, I don't.
yeah, I'm not sure which one.
Thank you. Okay. IMGA, nope. JICJ.
All right, JICJ, I think it's important to know this is a new draft that was vetted by the current administration about cell phone use and such in schools. So we would, again, like to hear feedback, and I'm sure the administration would like to hear as well.
When you
But I don't know, any administrators in the room
Yes.
want to speak about anything in particular?
They are all here in one fashion or another. And I just want confirmation, when you say vetted by current administration, you mean school administration, not political administration, correct?
Oh, yes, excuse me, school administration, building administration.
Okay, that's fine. Do any of you have anything you would like us to keep in mind when we're reviewing this? No? No? No?
I mean, at the middle school, I have requested, and it has gone very well. I don't want to jinx myself. Phones are not out during instruction. They're not out at lunch. They're not out. They do have them on their purses. They're in their pockets or socks. It's middle school. But they are not causing a disruption to learning. If a student does have it out, we ask them to put it away. We have not had any confrontation or backlash from that. Students have asked to use them, to call for clarification, and they usually come to the office to do that. So it has gone very smoothly. I'm very proud of our students for taking that on, taking that responsibility.
Great. Last question, Joe? I did we win in double overtime, rather nothing, or do we go shoot up?
Oh, you know, who knows?
They were late getting started, from what I understood a few minutes ago.
They just finished.
It's 0-0 right now?
No, they've won. I didn't get the last 2 minutes, but I know they were in the second overtime, 0-0. And,
If we had a cell phone calls,
Real quickly.
well, I'm here rather than there. I just wanted to know that.
I appreciate that. Can I just say, when we had a conversation, the primary conversation was with Jolene, Jay, and myself, and I don't know if Megan, if you were part of it, Lexi was a part of it, but what we really wanted to do was to capture in this policy things that were specific to all 3 schools without being so specific, because certainly grade school, and the grade school part of this is simple. Cell phones are not permitted in grade school. And then as they get older, and there's a greater use for them, it certainly looks different at the middle school than at the high school. We wanted to have a policy that sort of captured what was common amongst all the schools, but allowed for some flexibility. So somewhere in here, I was kind of looking at it, it does say something about superintendent designee may develop additional rules to implement this policy. The policy rules will be communicated to students and parents through the student handbook and the student code of conduct. And obviously, I'm not going to do that, so that's going to happen at, Julie's going to do it at her school, Jay's going to do it at his school, Lori's going to do it at her school, and it's going to look appropriate for the grade level.
Okay. KDA. We can't hear you, Ms. Catherine.
Yes, sorry, I'm pushing buttons here. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. All right, so ADA. All right, so KDA is a completely new policy, and there's nothing to compare it to. So I'm just giving you that sort of background. Where am I?
Catherine?
Sorry. So we're on KDA. Did you have comments, feedback about the public information program?
The only thing, I don't have, no.
You're gonna like this.
I understand.
I'm sorry, I didn't know the noise was gonna come off.
This was recommended, this is board governance and operations recommended by the main school management and attorneys. So, but as Catherine just said, this is new, so it's whatever, it's new.
I think at this point, no, Catherine, to answer your question. I think we will have to make a concerted effort to bring comments in question form to the committee before or during our next meeting.
So,
Would that be something, would you like perhaps we could put out a notice before our next policy meeting? We could solicit comments at that time.
I think that would be a good idea. When is your next meeting scheduled for?
I think it is the Tuesday. I think Sue needs to be here for this one. I think it's the Tuesday before the second meeting of the month. Is that correct, Joe? Joe, is that what we did?
Yes. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so the
Tuesday, 11:15.
So,
11:15.
4:30, Catherine? 4:30.
4:30, yes.
okay. Okay. I think that we can make a commitment to have questions or comments or concerns for that meeting.
No, I'm not sure that Sue's going to be available.
Okay. I think they have a standing meeting,
If,
date and time, right?
No, my daughter's going to let it go.
No way.
She's
Gotcha.
not going to come down till New Year's, I think. You know what I said, that Brooke Bell's going to let it go.
Really?
That's awesome. That is really awesome.
So, okay.
Didn't mean to lose the train of thought, that's it.
So 15th at 4:30.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion that is seconded to approve these policies that we've just discussed for first reading. All those in favor? 4-0. Okay, then we need to have a discussion regarding the following policies. JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion. JKAAE, incident report form for physical restraint and seclusion. JKAAR, procedures on physical restraint and seclusion. Catherine?
Actually, this is Sue.
Also.
All right, so these,
Go ahead, Estes.
okay, these, three, these are, I don't know if they're noted, but they are going to be tabled because they went back to the legislation. And, Sue, if you're still there, you can speak in your own words about that we are going to follow the law. That's what we're going to do, and these are surrounding that. So they have been tabled at this moment, is my understanding, unless something otherwise happens.
So Ken, before you let Sue talk about that, again, just for, sometimes we forget these things. This is one policy, it's JKAA, and that's the way it's coded. That is the use of physical restraint and seclusion. The other things are connected to that. One is the exhibit that attaches to that. It's the incident once it's reported. So you don't put reports or things that you file in a policy within an exhibit. That's why it's -E. And our policy outlines what's supposed to happen. Ours is a procedure tells you how it's supposed to happen. So this is all related to use of physical restraint and seclusion.
Okay, Sue?
So last fall, October 18th of 2021, a new law went into effect on restraint and seclusion. Prior to that, we had actually talked about this law, I want to say, in the spring of 21. We had chatted about some verbiage that the state was using and some changes that they were making. Ultimately, on October 18th, they did change the law. And they made it pretty restrictive. And so basically, anytime you're blocking a student, so if a student is kind of running past you and you stand and you get in the way of their movement, that is considered a restraint. And so there's been a lot of pushback from communities because Maine is the highest reporting restraint and seclusion state, not Winthrop, Maine as a whole. And our restraint and seclusion report numbers have skyrocketed because of the way that the law is now written. So originally my request was, I think we need to bring this back to the table because the law changed in October. But the legislative committee has been talking about bringing this back to the table. It got put on the docket last year. And so I said, well, we'll wait and we'll see what happens. And then it disappeared from the docket somehow, whether they died on the committee or they just stopped talking about it. But there is conversation again that it's going to go back to the legislative session to be reviewed and to have some changes. And so what I had suggested to the policy committee was that we do not make changes to our current policy, but we have an agreement that we are going to continue to follow the law as it's written. One of the only things that I would suggest is that we do take a look at our form that we use to report restraint and seclusion. because it is not consistent on what we're using. I don't even think we're using what's in our policy for our reporting form.
Can you share the reporting form with us?
I will.
Thank you.
I will. Yes. So that would be my recommendation. I can share with you if you want it. I don't have it, I have one copy tonight, but Gardner, the special director in Gardner, made a really nice side-by-side of the biggest changes to the October 18th law. But again, if it goes back to the legislative session, this may not be anything that will really matter.
Yeah, if you could give us that, we'll have copies made for all of the committee members. Is that all three? Thank you, Sue. Go ahead. Go ahead, Catherine.
Oh, I was just going to ask if the report form is the one that's in the packet for us tonight, and that's the one that we would like us to take a look at. Is that, am I clear?
So this is dated 7/1/12.
I don't think that's what my staff uses.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that the special ed team has a form that they've been using for quite some time, prior to me even starting in the district. And when I happened to review this policy, I looked at that form and I said, ooh, that's not even what we use. And so there's a disconnect between what special ed is using and what really, because this is a general ed law, it applies across the board to any student in our district, it's not just special ed. So,
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Okay.
So you're saying that this one is dated 7/1/12 is not likely to be the right one?
Great.
It's the most current one that the district has in policy,
Great.
but it's not the one that special ed has been using.
And you will share with
What
us
special ed has
what's
been
being
using.
actually used?
Yes.
Okay.
So the thing with this form is 2012, a lot of these things happened after 2012.
Yeah.
So I don't think this date is accurate.
We had Sue, Sue and Catherine and Sue Bells met while I was away, so a lot of this conversation I wasn't a part of. But prior to that, when I had asked Sue to be part of that meeting, exactly what you just said, Tim, is what she said. You know, this is a very difficult thing for you guys to take any action on because there's too many moving parts at the state level at this point. And clearly, you're right. This law has probably changed at least 3 or more times since 2012. At least 3 or more. So it's pointless, and I think that's what Sue's saying. We're committed. We're obviously committed to the school system to follow the law, even if we think the law is ridiculous. But we're committed to do that.
So do we need to put some kind of statement in writing that says this is what our policy currently is, but we will?
We don't, I don't think we need to. And I just want to remind the school committee that Mrs. Susan Fawcett is the director of MADSEC, the special ed director for the entire state of Maine.
She's the president.
She's the pres.
She's the president.
Got a pretty strong staff here. Really, when you think about the positions that are held on statewide committees and boards, we're fortunate with that right now.
That's Mrs. Snell.
I included her in my decision, in my statement.
She was in Prescott yesterday.
It's a long trip.
Oh, I'll let up there.
Okay. Back to business, we'll talk about Prescott. All right. Next topic, to approve the outing club trip on November 4th and 5th, 2022 to Camp Center Stage.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
I want
She's
to.
gone. Sarah's gone.
Jason, if you have any questions.
I let her go.
Okay.
I mean, just another trip they're gonna be going to this weekend while the weather's good, so.
Okay.
And in case you don't know, Camp Center Stage belongs to the students. This is the school years and the students.
The form is All right. Any more discussion on that before we take a vote? Okay, all those in favor? That's 4-0, it's a vote. Okay, is there any public comment? Not seeing any online. Any comment here? Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to give a shout out and recognize DHS, because they, that's not what I want to say. NHS, oh my gosh, I'm just too tired sitting here. I can't even recognize the right group of kids. NHS at the high school, October was the month for principals to be recognized for all that they do. And I have a card that I kept in my office. It had the kindest note, and it was a lengthy note. It wasn't just a couple of lines. It was some really heartfelt, words that they wrote, and everyone signed it. And there was a bag of candies, goodies, and it was just at the grade school. We have this little thing that we call about the bucket fillers. Well, it filled my bucket that day, and it's just really, I mean, a big shout out to you guys, the NHS, because that's really very thoughtful. So, thank you.
That is awesome. You must have a really nice advisor.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
Thanks to Joe for coming to the graduation
Yes.
for adult education. We had 2 students with a large number of their family members. Of course, a few days later, I ended up with COVID at the same time.
Aww.
But it was a great ceremony, and it was really nice of you folks to show up and be there for the students.
Thank you for reminding me of that. I was looking at my calendar before I came in to write down things, and that wasn't on there, so I didn't put it down. But it was awesome to see those 2 students receiving their diplomas and seeing how surrounded they are by support, and talking to them about what their plans are going forward. And the one gentleman having his son there to be able to say, you can do anything, it doesn't matter, when it happens, just do it. And that was second generation adulthood at that point. So it was very, very cool.
We'll make sure you can go to the next one.
So we gotta do the national anthem for you guys.
I just wanted to echo Jim's appreciation and gratitude for the teachers and the staff of Winthrop Public Schools, and add to that how thankful I am for Colleen Sousa, who really helped me navigate some of the trickier things and did a great job forwarding messages that had to come to me, and helping me organize or figure out what people to reach out to organize, especially when we had that day that didn't have fantastic weather. So I appreciate her for helping me connect some of those dots. My month went really smoothly because we do have such a great team. So I wanted to make sure that I said thank you to everybody as well. And just Colleen gets a gold star from me for sure. So.
Yeah. Okay. School committee comments. Joe, now's the time.
I'm just so excited about Brooks for that goal, and it just gives me another place to go Saturday, so I'm really excited.
So does that, with Brooks scoring that goal, does that mean it's a 1-0 win?
That's the Wansky on Saturday.
Is it a 1-0 win?
Yeah,
Okay.
in overtime. So
Overtime, double.
I could be wrong, but I believe that's her first high school goal,
I think so too. I was gonna,
which is an amazing first one senior year.
she's a defender. She doesn't
I
usually
know.
get up there. So.
Well, that was the question I had, although I saw that the coach was playing her up. In different situations, she was rotating the last couple of games. So they may be young, but they are just ferocious. And some of the youngest ones, I was just really amazed at how well they played. When they don't get a lot of minutes, but they get a few minutes. And one of them, I'm not even sure she comes up to my waist, but she scored a goal the other day. I said, "What's that kid? Get that kid off the field. It's not a kid, it's a player." I didn't mean it badly, but it was just, she really just fought right through it. So they're in a good mood right now, so this will be exciting.
Okay.
You said you were what time?
I don't know what time.
Anything else, Joe?
No, I'm fine. I'm fine. did enjoy going to adult education. It is very rewarding to see something like that, because you remember why you have education.
Thank you both for
Yeah.
yourself wanting to do this.
It was our pleasure. Tim?
Just I thought the parent-teacher conferences at the grade school were well done, organized, informative, and middle school format so easy. Actually, thinking about that in my end. That for my school, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It must be easy on staff.
I would hope not a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
You can reschedule them yourself online if you schedule it and realize you have something conflicting and to go back. Speaking from experience here, it's really easy to reschedule. Yeah, anything else? Catherine?
No, I'll keep my messages short. It'll be exciting to see what happens on Saturday.
And where will it be?
Someone's people,
You said that.
Joseph.
Okay. Anna? Sorry.
Last week at the high school, the Theater at Monmouth came and put on a performance, and that was a really great experience. They try to do that every year, so we were really grateful that they did that again, and we were able to see that. And the NHS has been pretty busy the last couple of weeks, so we did deliver cards and little gifts, and we also painted thank you pumpkins and delivered those to businesses in town, just to thank them for supporting the community and do something fun. And as Ms. Hooper said, the seniors in the NHS are starting to work on our senior service projects, and my senior service project is helping to organize and promote the caring cupboard, which is food pantry that we have in the high school. So I wanted to mention that here because I want to spread awareness about that and make sure students and staff and families know that that is available. And yeah, thank you.
Is it only food or is it also?
There are also like hygienic products and bags.
Awesome.
What's it called again?
The caring cupboard.
That's a great. Where is it located in the school?
It's in room 109, so it's by like the social studies wing, and it's in a closet in 109, like a large closet. But that's why it's the cupboard.
It was up in the Spanish room last year. Is that a bit?
This is new this year, so they started gathering food last year, but now this is the first time it's like happening.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Are all students aware of it?
They are not yet because it like literally just got organized, but we have a town meeting next week, and then also be presenting it and letting everyone know.
Okay. Awesome. David?
Well, sports related, the cross-country team went to states last weekend, and we went runners up. And I don't remember the last time that happened, but boys. And we placed runners up at states, won regionals and NPCs, and the girls team won the sportsmanship award in the NPK.
That is exciting. It's good. It's been a while, but it's just really exciting to see.
And I believe that's all from me.
Okay. All right. So, I guess my final thought is that I'm excited about one of the NHS projects as well. I'm working with Maddie Weymouth on her project, putting together packets for foster children, and so I'm working on a contact with Child and Family Services, and they are working on putting together a list of kind of a range of age-appropriate things, and they said probably their biggest need would be for teens and preteens, not little kids. So we're working on that, and she will come and work with an organization that I am part of to have so many hands helping her. Her goal is to put together 50 packets. So, yeah. All right. There is no, do you have anything to say? Okay. There is no executive session tonight, so without objection, I